Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. It is a Monday and it is day 2 of coffee week. So are you excited? We have one more coffee review today, another coffee candle. I have them all sitting here off stage, as it were. We did on the first day of coffee week yesterday a candle by Candleberry, which was French roasted coffee, and I did not think it was a very impressive candle once it was burned, but gosh, it smells gorgeous on cold. Probably at least my second favorite fragrance, but it just didn't perform very well. And even when it was burning well and I was getting about the maximum volume that it could give, I really kind of felt like the fragrance was only kind of coming in at a half strength, at a half volume, as it were, kind of mid-range. It wasn't the fullness of the fragrance that I smelled on cold. So I would not repurchase it. And frankly, it was so sooty. I didn't like the way that it burned across the board. So I would be probably less inclined from that burn to purchase any other Candleberry candles, especially because their fragrances run very gourmand, and I'm not really a gourmand person, but God bless. All right, so that was Coffee Shop. Are you guys ready for the magic moment where we decide what our next candle is that we're reviewing? Okay, here we go. Here's what it is. Swan Creek roasted espresso. So actually I bought this candle at exactly the same time that I bought the Candleberry candle. This was at the same Hallmark where I purchased the Candleberry one. They had a ton of Swan Creeks as well. So I went ahead and picked this one up because I loved the way that it smelled as well. It was in a mason jar, and actually they did have this in 2 formats, a larger one and a smaller one. I bought the smaller one just because I had a lot of coffee candles to burn and I had no idea how it was going to burn. I would have bought this in a smaller vessel, but unfortunately it only came in the large one at that particular Hallmark. But then online too, this is really kind of the smallest size that you can get it in currently, at least, unless you go for the wax melts. So I bought this at the same time. Swan Creek is another mom and pop kind of candle company, and this one is, I think, a little bit smaller than Candleberry. This one is up in Northwest Ohio. So I would imagine, although I didn't look at a map, I was born and raised in Ohio, so I should know this, but I think kind of up in the Toledo / almost Michigan kind of area, up there in northwestern Ohio. And I've never actually visited there, and this is the very first Swan Creek candle that I've ever burned. Obviously, as with Candleberry, they kind of have this very homespun country kind of vibe. Swan Creek pours all of their fragrances in a range of different vessels and sizes. Very similar to Patty Wax, for instance, and Illume. They kind of have a spate of fragrances, and then they have various different aesthetics, different lines, different vessels that they just end up pouring everything in, essentially. I think this is called a pantry. I think this was a pantry candle. It's obviously just kind of a mason jar here with the name on it. Do I have it upside down? Yeah, I do. Okay, there we go. Swan Creek Candle Company. I don't love mason jars, but I've been transparent about the fact that I'm not really a country girl either. So there's that. These are, for the most part, only 1 wicks. There was only one format that was more than 1 wick on their website, and it was like this porcelain little mini pie plate, essentially, with 3 wicks in it. So there was that. And actually, I think that they do a business in refills. So if you buy, especially one of those bigger ceramic vessels, you're meant to buy the refills to go inside of it. And I think the refills are round 1 wicks, and that pie plate, I think you're supposed to put the 3 wicks, 3 of the 1 wicks in there, which makes it 1 wick. Anyway, close parentheses. Really, they just kind of do 1 wicks. So yeah, this was, there is a, out and kind of, because I'm in a, even though I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia is really just kind of built up around University of Virginia. So it's kind of a college town. It's a little bit of an old money agrarian kind of demographic. And it's what I like to call a one-horse town, at least certainly when school is out, not in session in the summer. And it's very easy to kind of get out into the rural Virginia area. You just have to drive like 2 miles. So there's this little Amish store, you know, like about 20 miles down the road, and it has a ton of these little Swan Creek candles. It's the very first time that I've like smelled or experienced the Swan Creek candles, and I ended up buying one, and I haven't burned it yet, but it was so gorgeous. It was some sort of like basil candle. It was really, really nice and very botanical. But as with Candleberry, it does seem as though Swan Creek does do a lot of like the country gourmands. That's kind of their thing as it is for Candleberry, but not all of them are gourmands. And there were a few conceptuals in there, some florals, some various different things, more so than with Candleberry. So there's that. Swan Creek has this, and I don't know if you could tell, look how lumpy that wax is. It's kind of one of those characteristic things. It's very lumpy, and they intentionally, and I should have taken a picture of it, but at the top of all of the Swan Creek candles, they leave right in the center all of these unmelted wax beads. And they're the same color as whatever wax it is. It's colored wax. But then at the top, right centering right around the wick, they've just left all of the scent beads kind of unmelted, which provides some like kind of interesting texture, and you know, that may be all it is. The rest of it is obviously just a regular wax formula, but it does get really funky looking, like curdled almost at the bottom. They say on the Swan Creek website many, many times that this is a 100% pure soy formula, which blows my mind. Blows my mind, because the power and volume on this candle was extraordinary, especially given that it was a one wick with a fairly narrow diameter here. This is 12 ounces, and it bested the performance of many multiple wicks that I have burned from a million different companies. It was an extremely impressive candle, and extremely loud, and fairly bassy. And I was getting, unlike Candleberry, what I smelled in the jar on cold was for the most part what I was getting once I burned it. So this performed incredibly well, so much that I question whether it's 100% soy. I literally put here pure soy 3 question marks. Incredible. Who was it? There was another company. Maybe it was the milk house one or whatever, that I think they have a 100% plant-based formula too. And some of their candles are extremely loud. I don't know how they get that. I do notice with Milk House though that the extremely loud ones are like so loud that they are in fact very almost synthetic smelling. Like they're very like artificial. So I don't know if that's like a compensation for the soy. I don't know. This one has at least kind of that volume that I've experienced in some Milk House candles. But this one, and most of the fragrances that I have smelled from Swan Creek are not artificial smelling or synthetic. They are just extremely assertive. Extremely. This candle smells so good. Very similar, in fact, to Candleberry. I actually like the Candleberry one a little bit better in terms of the fragrance. This one is just a bit smoother, a little bit bassier and roastier. This one is roasty, but it's also a little bit sweeter. Yeah, and maybe, I hesitate, it's not scalded, but there is kind of a very, like, brittle roastedness to it in the way that this is like a warm roastedness, which I really appreciate. But I'm kind of splitting hairs. These two candles really do smell pretty similar to each other. Oh man, that's good. Maybe the tiniest chocolate overtone, but as I said in the early video, this is more of a chocolate overtone that you would expect from actual coffee beans that have a little bit of a chocolate overtone to them, rather than some sort of artificial or external inclusion of chocolate. So the notes on this one, actually, there are no notes on this one. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think they had a very like limited blurb on it. It was like roasted, it was like fresh espresso and I don't know, something like that. I mean, it was just basically like fresh espresso. That was all it was, you know? By the way, I do want to say that their website is very mom and pop. I get the sense this is a very kind of bare bones operation. And so their website is a little bit on the reduced side of things, a little bit hard to find some things in it for sure. It's a little on the clunky side. They've definitely saved some money, but I get the sense that this is like a true mom and pop family business, like we do it in our garage kind of company. I mean, it's probably bigger than that, but I definitely was getting more that vibe with this one than with any other candle company here. Also, it did say on the blurb that this one right here, which is roasted espresso, is in fact, quote, our all-time best-selling fragrance, unquote. So there you go. And man, I can believe it. I can believe it. Yeah, so this is a pantry jar. It's 12 ounce and it retails for $15.99, and that's what I paid for it at Hallmark. You can also get this pantry in a larger size, which is 24 ounces for $24.95. But also it only has the one wick in it regardless. Guys, this was a fantastic candle. And like I said, it was one of those coffee candles that was fantastic on cold, and it was fantastic burned. So in the open concept, and yes, you could do this in the open concept. In the open concept, it ranged anywhere from like a 5.5 to a 7 or a 7.5, something like that. I would say in the open concept, it was a solid 6.5, which, like I said, is incredibly impressive given the size, given the diameter, and given the single wick. If you got this same candle in a 3 wick, oh my gosh, I think you could easily get it in your open concept up into the 8 or 8.5 range. No question. Absolutely no question. I kind of appreciated, though, that it's kind of in the 6.5 or 7 range, because this becomes, as I've said before, a really great coffee candle to blend with something else. Because really, this is just exactly what I was looking for. It's a straight up coffee fragrance. And it's fantastic. It's everything you want from just a beautiful roasted, all coffee beans kind of fragrance. There are a few candles here that are called coffee roastery or coffee shop or, you know, something like that. This definitely comes the closest. Maybe this one too. Yeah, maybe this one too, but this is a bit smoother. For me, this is a true like coffee, a true freshly brewed coffee in the mug. That it's like that kind of a smoothness for the Candleberry one, at least on cold. This one here has a little bit more of a ruggedness, and it's frankly a little bit more dynamic, not only in the cold experience, but also in the warm experience as well. Not quite as refined, not quite as smooth as the Candleberry one, but because of that, it just smells like a coffee house, like one of those independent coffee houses that also roast their beans and has them lining the wall in those containers that you can like refill your bag. I mean, it's like that kind of a smell. Gorgeous. Gosh, I love this candle. It burns like a dream. I mean, it's obviously a soy because look at all that like soy smut all over it. But man, despite the soy, despite the small size and the small diameter, despite the single wick, we have incredible performance from this candle. Now, I have not burned any other Swan Creek candle, so I don't know if this one is necessarily indicative or representative of the way that their candles burn, but I'll tell you what, after this candle, I'm gonna check them out. I'm gonna check them out. I am much more inclined to try this candle company out 100%. So I'm gonna be checking them out at my little Amish store. And I've got a little baby basil one that I'm interested in. I mean, they do a lot of like the regular like cinnamon roll kind of gourmands, which are not my deal, but not all of them are in that vein. And I just think it's fantastic. I think it's a fantastic candle. My first burn, and given the size of it, I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother with this in the open concept. So my first burn was actually in my back bedroom. And I got it up so high. I mean, it was like an 8 in my back bedroom. And I was so surprised at how gorgeous it was that I was like, I actually think this is an open concept candle. So I brought it out and it was in the open concept past that point, which is fantastic because this is not, you really don't want, I mean, I don't know what you do in your bedroom, and God bless, you can do whatever you want in your bedroom. I don't know that like coffee shop is my personal bedroom vibe. But man, isn't that great though? In the kitchen, you've got an open concept kitchen dining room area. It's a great morning candle. And like I said, you can pair it with something and make it a fantastic house filler as well. A pumpkin spice latte, especially for this season. But you could add like a tonka, a smoky candle, a cashmere candle, especially in January and February. This is a fantastic candle. And friends, because it's a true, like, it's an intense and dense soy. Intense and dense. The soy that I'm familiar with, like from Kringle, and Kringle is 100% soy too. Kringle's 100% soy formula burns extremely quickly, extremely. It's a very light fragrance, just doesn't seem very dense. This soy fragrance, this 100% soy is exactly the opposite. It's incredibly dense. It reminds you of paraffin in its density and in the length that it takes to burn. And partly that's because it's only a single wick. So this candle, I mean, I burn this candle for hours and hours and hours and days and days and days. This is the kind of candle that you can kind of keep half burned in your cupboard and bring it out every now and then. It's going to take you a long time to get through this 12 ounce. Heaven help you if you should try like a 24 or something like that. So this burned incredibly long, which is great if it's a great candle that you like, and especially one that you don't mind storing and kind of bringing out at various different moments. So yes, it's a yes for me. So just to give you a little bit of information, it seems as though they do offer free shipping at Swan Creek over $60, which is really fantastic, unless something has changed. That was the sign that I was getting. I haven't ordered from them yet because I bought one at the Amish store and then I bought one at Hallmark in West Virginia. So I haven't actually ordered anything from them, and I can't speak to their shipping speed, etc., the way that they do so. But it's the one detraction from this candle is it's not a Bath & Body Works candle that you can just kind of stop in your local brick and mortar store and easily pick it up. And I get that. You're going to have to buy blind, and you're going to have to buy from a company's online website and probably pay shipping unless you get it over that $60 mark. But I'm incredibly impressed with this candle. Incredibly impressed. And I hope I'm not leading you wrong. I really don't. I want to say that you will not be disappointed, especially if you are a little bit wary of buying things online and buying blind. I sure am. I really am. For me, I wouldn't gamble with the Candleberry candle. I really would not. But I would for Swan Creek Roasted Espresso. They do have one other coffee fragrance that I know of, which is cold brew coffee. And I think that was in the Hallmark. But weirdly, I didn't like the cold brew coffee quite as well as this roasted espresso. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the cold brew coffee has some amount of like cream and sugar and cinnamon or something like that, which I've said this before in relation to Yankee Candle's cold brew coffee that just came out about a month and a half or 2 months ago. For me, cold brew coffee invokes something that is extremely dark and extremely rich, when you cold brew a good coffee blend, you're actually triple brewing it for the most part, and it's sitting for days to be able to get up to the correct level of caffeine and strength. To be able to stand up to ice, for instance, etc. And so cold brews, and the amazing and gorgeous thing about a cold brew is that because it's brewed cold or room temperature as opposed to extremely hot, the acidity on all of the cold brews tends to be very, very low, because acidity does happen, or it is amplified by a heat based kind of brewing. And so the fact that it's cold means that it's extremely like low basey, low acidity, and it's supposed to be super strong, super chocolatey, super smooth without the bitterness that is often associated with a dark roast coffee. And for that reason, cold brew, especially given the labor intensity that goes into this process, you can't just make a cold brew in 2 hours or 3 hours or one day. It often takes days and days and days. I know at Starbucks, for instance, they put it in a tub like at least 48 hours in advance. If they run out of it, they can't just brew another pot of cold brew. Because of that labor intensity and because of the quality of that coffee, it's almost a crime to then like dump a ton of cream and sugar and like all kinds of other things in it, if that makes any sense. Like a really good cold brew that has taken time and is smooth and low in acidity should really be enjoyed black, if possible. Oh, maybe with a little tiny things in it, but honestly, save your cream, your sugar, your chocolate, your spice, your all the for a coffee brew that is not that great on its own. It's kind of like the idea of like a wine that you would cook with as opposed to a wine that you would just drink straight up, right? Like, would you really pour like an expensive bottle of Bordeaux into like a coq au vin, a French stew? I mean, it will make it amazing, but like honestly, like just drink that straight up. That's how cold brew is. I'm sorry for this parenthetical like rabbit trail, but it is coffee week, so I don't feel too bad about it. I think that a lot of these candle companies that are doing cold brew candles, for me, I expect them to be dark, basey, just straight up black richness. And so many of these cold brew candles like have cream and sugar in them. And I don't get it. It's fine to call it an iced coffee, but a cold brew specifically, I just feel like you don't understand coffee. God bless your candle company. Anyway, close parentheses. I think the cold brew coffee was at Hallmark, but I didn't like it as much as this one. I mean, this roasted espresso is a straight up roasted coffee. But for me personally, it's not so much espresso as it is like a coffee house. I mean, there's, like I said, there's a dynamism here. You feel as though you're smelling light brews, medium brews, dark brews, roasted in different ways. All of that is in this candle, as opposed to just a singular black coffee experience. But that could be why it performs so well, frankly, is because it's firing in so many different micro ranges. When it's burned, it also projects that way. You don't feel like you're getting kind of something very linear, when in fact, it's a very one note kind of candle, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I'm sorry, I know that I've talked to Blue Streak, but this candle has my heart. It really does. Swan Creek Candle Company, come through. I'm very happy to say that this was a fantastic coffee candle, and I highly, highly recommend it to you. And it's just, like I said, no surprise to me at all that apparently this is their best-selling marquee fragrance for Swan Creek, and I'm interested in burning other things from them. I really am. I'm going to link all the information down below for Swan Creek. And I'm just really happy here very early on to be able to present you a real winner. A winner for coffee. Because not all of them are winners, and even the ones that smell quite good, it's just no guarantee that it's going to perform in your house, and what you smell on cold is what you're going to get once you burn it. And I know that makes a big difference. So really happy with this one. Thank you so much for joining me today. Join me tomorrow for Coffee Week, day three of 8. So we're gonna go all the way through Sunday, a coffee review every single day. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.